Welcome to Shine Your Light, where we humanize the conversation and speak on topics that can expand our minds while sharing our own truth. Hi everyone, how you doing? I'm so excited today to be here with Dr. Mansoor Habib, the founder of Happy Coin and a program partner at a happiness coaching center. It's my great honor to have him here today because he is one of the faces of happiness in this region. You know, he always goes around talking about happiness, explains to us how we can live a life of well-being. We can apply it at work as well. And guess what? He actually lives it. So it's my greatest honor to have you here, Dr. Habib. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Rajiv. Salam alaikum. Hello, everyone. And thank you so much for having me today in this session.
It's an honor, sir. And you know, the fun thing, Dr. Mansoor, is, you know, we both work in happiness. We've been working together for a while. We do collaborations. But the most amazing thing about the work that we do is we have to live it first. If we live it first, it shows, and then the energy spreads out to everybody else. Isn't that true?
Spot on, Rajiv. Let me start with this story for everyone. Now, I wear a couple of hats. Although, yes, I'm a physician by practice as a family medicine and occupational health consultant. I'm always super passionate when it comes to positivity, when it comes to happiness, when it comes to well-being, because I believe it's all about prevention and it's all about doing the right thing at the right time. So let me tell you this story, Rajiv. When you're talking about role modeling, the example of living it, it was 2 years ago the story happened. I was busy with my laptop trying to finish a task. And then my daughter comes in. She's 16 today, but she was 14 2 years ago. And she tells me, Dad, I want you to help me in a project. So I tell her, later, I'm busy right now. And my tone was a little bit not a soft one at that time for obvious reasons. And guess what happened? I thought maybe she might feel mad or she will go to her mom complaining about me. She didn't do any of that. She just stood in front of me, looked at me, an eye to an eye, and she said to me, Dad, you talk to people about positivity and happiness. Is that the way you deal with your daughter?
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, you are amazing. Okay, come, what's wrong? Tell me, how can I help you in the project? So spot on. If we don't live those values and those concepts, then I think we are in the wrong platform, because it all starts within and it has a huge impact because it makes you so mindful and so careful about, am I practicing what I'm preaching? I mean, and the same goes in health when it comes to a physician. We, for example, tell people about healthy lifestyle and etc. But if we don't exercise and if we don't eat healthy, then that's also brings a big question mark that are we really practicing it, or we are just talking about it, or just, yes, exactly, preaching what we practice.
I love what I heard you say. You said many things there, but one of the most powerful things your daughter reminded us of in that conversation is, no matter what we do, when we are mindful, when we are aware of the moment, then we don't allow the emotions necessarily to take control of the situation. Of course, we feel them, right? You were busy, you were trying to get it done, rushing through it. We've all been there as parents. Doc, I've done that too with my kids, and my kids give me that look. But you know what? I've heard the same sentence from my kids too. You talk about happiness and well-being. Why are you upset? I'm like, oh, I'm feeling the emotion. But it makes you think, and I love that. They keep you in check. And your point in that, and point is exactly that, is that when you're living and practicing what you preach, you're able to actually go out there and make a difference. Am I right?
Absolutely. And when you said the word mindful, it's easy said, but very difficult implemented, because we get emotional, we get sentimental. And I was reading a couple of days ago a few articles about stress in general. And you will be fascinated to know that within a span of 6 to 10 seconds, that's only how much your body needs to go into a stress situation. Wow. By the hormones coming down to your body, and you switch off where you are not able to think clearly and you become clouded. So because, and that goes back to our primitive brain, when we are back in the forest and we are afraid of being hunted by some dangerous animal. So that fear is also there. Those emotions are there. But today, the fear has transferred into a task by a manager, or an execute or prepare a report for the higher management. The brain will react in the same manner. But it's about being mindful. It's about checking on ourselves, as you correctly said. And I cannot use the word, it's out of my control. We say it in a very sentimental way, that it wasn't me, it was out of my control. I had to do it. No, 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 no. You have a choice. You can make a choice. Even when it comes to well-being, which we're going to definitely talk about, you have a choice to make, but you need to really put your gears on and be mindful about it.
Well said. What was the most powerful line you said is you are in control, and then you added beautifully, even of your own well-being, right? Because people take it for granted, right? And again, we hear about today, we talk about well-being at work, of course, but let's, before we talk about well-being at work, we talk about well-being overall. But you have to be in control of your own well-being. It's not just going to happen. I remember you saying this earlier. It's not just switch on the light and it happens, right?
No,
You have to work for it.
absolutely. You have to work so hard for it until you start seeing the change. I mean, look, even today, for example, we have our holy book, the Quran, and there is a verse which says that God will not change a society unless they don't change themselves. So the notion is that if I don't take the first step, if I don't change my attitude, my behavior, it won't happen out of nowhere. You need to take the first step, and then the power of God, nature, you call it, will help you to steer on the right pathway.
Well said. Well said. Absolutely. And that's where, now when we bring this context and you bring it to organizations, right? A lot of organizations in the last 5-6 years, well, bless them, they're trying to start to make a difference in their organizations by paying attention to their people and the well-being of the people, right? Which is a good thing, Dr. Mansoor. I'm happy to see that they're making the effort, right? That's the first step. But sometimes in this process of trying to make it happen, we can try so hard that you end up ticking a box, or at least, okay, yeah, we have to do something now. So they'll tick that box. And that's not always the best approach to working on your well-being, is it?
I think you've touched a very important point, Rajiv. Today, when we look at well-being, when you come to organizations, as you correctly said, to be honest, yes, they're doing an effort, but their efforts is to tick a box, to be genuine, to take the employee and to excel it to the next level. I would tell you there will be very few organizations, especially in a few minutes when I'll take you through the main pillars of workplace well-being. You will realize yourself that we might be focusing on so many superficial things, and we're not able still to deep dive to the real core of well-being in the workplace.
Well said. Well said. So, I mean, think about it this way. It all begins with having the intention, right? In anything in life, it all is about the intention, which comes from having some awareness, right? So I think progressively as society is moving forward, where we were 20, 30 years ago, where we are today, there is definitely some momentum because awareness has been brought, intentions are set. We're seeing organizations stuck in that corner now. We're ticking the boxes maybe where they're stuck. But like you rightfully said, it's progressively now having pillars in place, understanding that if you want to take control of your well-being, then that requires you to start to plan, move forward. But before moving forward, Doctor, I'm going to throw this word out and throw it back to you. It's really, really important to see where you are. And it's really, really important to see how you measure, because every CEO, every business manager wants to see numbers and tangibility. Well, that's where it starts. Measure where you are. What do you think about that, Doc?
See, here's a very important point that you have mentioned when we're talking about measuring. At the end of the day, when we talk about well-being, it's a collective effort. It's not only my effort, it has to also come from the leadership, because in an organization, it's like a house. It has a father, which is the CEO, and then it has I would say, then the brothers, the sisters, and so it's if you look at it from a family setup perspective, it's very similar. So there should be that responsibility, that role modeling coming from top to bottom. But then if you talk about measure, today is a very important point that I need to mention, is that if we get so much hooked up with measuring, we might forget the bigger picture. Yes, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. We know all of these. But I remember I was attending a well-being conference back in 2015, and one of the gurus of well-being, Professor Eddington, when I told him what is the best measuring tool to evaluate and the well-being, you know what he said? He said, throw all the surveys and the feedbacks out of the window and just do one thing. Check how many times your employees smiled per day. That's it. This is your measure. So it was, I know it sounds so subjective, but it's so simple. I don't need to put matrix to fool myself that my employees are doing well. I can sense it. If the colleagues and the staff are passionate and they are being empowered and they've been trusted, they won't mind how many hours they do their job, because they will do it with complete what you call flow. I'm sure many of you have you've come across the concept of flow, because when you are indulged in something, you won't feel tired once you're done with it. You will not feel exhausted. So if you're talking about your energy bar being full at the beginning of your working day, it should stay the same if you're indulgent, if you're enjoying what you're doing. Then a question might come as a very sarcastic one. Come on, doctor, be realistic. Today, where can I indulge myself? Every work has a stress and has its own challenges. Yes, that's correct. This is life. But if I'm articulating, and if I am in an organization where my leadership genuinely believes in well-being, it will give me that space to keep on refueling myself, so that at least even when I'm back home from my work, I have already refilled my tank, even if it got emptied in the middle of the day.
Well said. I love what you're throwing this way, because when you there's so much expansion in the conversation. I'll explain. I'll kind of indulge a bit in a few of them. One is, I agree with you that the number of smiles, for example, is a simple measure you can look at. But I will say that I do strongly believe, and the reason I say that is because when organizations start to tick the box, they tend to do a lot of activities right away, right? So you want to do this for this particular day, let's do this, let's do mental health, and they start doing. But the problem with doing is like doing with your eyes closed, because you really don't know where you're headed. So that's why I think it's important to measure, because it allows you as an organization to see, and I'm talking about organization, not only as an individual, allows you to see how you're showing up, allows you to understand, what are the gaps, and then consciously start to implement. And then I love it, because then you can start to measure it with the smiles as well and see that it's working. So I love what you're saying. When you talk about flow, Dr. Mansoor, is absolutely nail on. You can be so, I've been there, you've been there, you're working hard on something you love, okay? You love your job, you love what you're doing, and you're working hard, and time just flies, right?
Yep.
It's like 3 hours, then suddenly 6 hours have gone, and you didn't even know it's gone. You forgot to have something to eat.
Exactly.
But your battery is not empty. And I know that feeling, and it's amazing. Now, 1 hour or something you don't like doing, and that battery is draining really fast, right?
It feels as if it's a whole week of effort.
Absolutely. And so you're absolutely right. To get in that state of flow, to get in that state where you actually love what you're doing, actually requires you to be actively engaged in what you're doing, right? And Dr. Masood, can I ask you a question here?
Go ahead.
Pre-pandemic, studies showed that statistics of engagement were something like, 85% of people disengaged. That means, can you imagine? People were not engaged at work, didn't want to be there. So how many of them could get in a state of flow, right? You know what I mean? So it's amazing, right? Statistics like that can be quite scary. So we must do something about it. Am I right?
And this takes me to my main aspect about the pillars of well-being at work, Rajiv. Now, if we want to reach to that level of flow, if you want to have a matrix of measurement that allows us in a workplace to be holistic, because today, I'll be frank with you, some workplaces, they are doing great job when it comes to mental well-being, but are they focusing on other pillars of employee well-being? A question mark. Some of them might focus a lot on physical well-being, but then I started looking and digging deeper, trying to find out, can we come up with a holistic model that will balance things? And here where I came up with the, let's say, because in the field of medicine, we have a long list of diseases. So we like to memorize them by creating an acronym. So I created an acronym for the same, which tries to summarize the main pillars of well-being very simply in the word happy. But this time, the happy is with an I, not with a Y. And you will know in a few minutes why. Let's start with the letter H. So now I'm talking about a framework that if you want to end up with an employee or with a workforce which has a balanced approach towards well-being, and then measurement tools will fall and it will come by itself. Let's start with the letter H. H stands for health.
Yes.
So now, today, as an organization, am I taking care of the health of my employee? Now, when I say health, it's physical and mental health. Okay? For example, very quickly, if physical health, uh, are my staff getting a good medical insurance cover? Do they have a physician that follows up their conditions? Are they in a safe environment because of, especially now with COVID and etc. Again, do they have tools in the workplace that allow them to be healthy? For example, a gym or healthy food options, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
that's from a physical perspective. I'm still in the H, and then
H.
within H also we have the mental well-being. Okay,
Right.
do we have a support line? Do we have an understanding managers? Can we take care of our staff when they are in moment of need? If some of their family member have passed away, unfortunately, or if they are in a boots of depression, are we equipped as an organization to support our colleague, or is it just a tick box that we have helpline, but when the colleague asks for a special leave, we don't support them with? Here comes a very important articulation. I'll move on to the next letter because again, if you're going to talk about each pillar, it will be days and days,
Right.
and we will not. And I think I need to keep some more minutes for the discussion to continue further. If we go on to the next letter, so we finished with H.
Right. Love it.
Done.
Yes.
We go with A. A is our social well-being. What do I mean by A? Around me.
Around me. Okay. Okay, so I think our connection is a little weak here. I'm just waiting to get you back on. But while you come on, so I see Dr. Mansoor, I think your connection's a little off. So till you come on, I'm going to just elaborate on the H of happy till we get you back here. But it's amazing because when you look at organizations and they have a well-being program, a lot of times we see organizations out there all around the world focusing on a particular aspect of well-being, right? So you rightfully said, like Dr. Mansoor spoke about earlier, where they're talking about maybe health. Within the health, they're talking about maybe the physical elements. They do a lot of physical stuff, but they don't do much on the mental well-being. And then if they do mental well-being programs, they don't have the support system in place to then support the mental well-being program. So a lot of times these are things that, again, have to be considered. And I think what Dr. Mansoor was saying is trying to find a holistic way so that everything is balanced and the circle is complete. So this is really, really interesting. Dr. Mansoor, you know what? I know that the connection sometimes gets a little weak. So while you try to maybe disconnect and come back on, I'll just continue going on. We spoke about well-being while we get Dr. Mansoor back. When we see the organizations and the practices they can put in place, we started by talking about the ticking in the box, which we know is something we don't want to do. We can measure, but of course, like Dr. Mansoor said, it's not only about measuring where you are, but it's also about actually having a program with pillars in place that help you to start implementing your well-being. So it's really interesting when you think about it. If it has to be within our system, it has to be ingrained. A lot of times organizations will try to do things to keep things moving, but they find themselves always planning the next activity, right? So what can we do so we start to ingrain in our system? How can we create pillars so that everything is linked to each other? This is really, really important. I also throw questions back out to you while we wait for Dr. Mansoor to come back. And the questions are, what is working for you in your system? What's working for you in your organization? What are some of the things that your organization is doing right now that enables you to feel that there is a circle of support? So Dr. Mansoor, I was just elaborating on some of the parts for you while you were away, is that on organizations who are focusing on health, for your first H, is ensuring the whole circle is complete, not just focusing on one part of health, whether it's physical or mental well-being, but ensuring that A, it's a holistic approach, but B, ensuring that the support around that is also being met. So like you said,
Absolutely.
having the call center, having that extra care and empathy, all that stuff makes a big difference to your whole well-being program, isn't it?
Absolutely. So that's very well. You're explaining the H. I'm back on the stage, right?
You are back, you're up and running.
Okay. So if you move on to the letter A, And we said A is around me. And what do we mean by around me? It's the social well-being aspect of my workplace. My relationship with my line manager, with my colleagues, with other departments. Do we have a mature relationship? Is there bullying? Do we have civility? The concept of civility is very important today. You might say, as a line manager, oh, you're my buddy or you're my colleague, and in front of everyone, I might throw in some funny jokes. Sometimes it could be offensive. So, how healthy is the relationship between me and my colleagues around me? So, the context of social well being is very important because do I feel my friends supporting me or is there jealousy? Do my colleagues take care or are worried about my growth and progression, or they want to steal the show and the limelight from myself?
Right.
Yes, in any workplace, we have these challenges, but are we thinking like a football team where the defense will pass the ball to the attack to bring the goal, or everyone wants to keep the ball with themselves? So the letter A within happy or social well-being context is such an important pillar that no matter how much I take care of you physically and mentally, if socially I'm disconnected and I'm jealous of you, then I won't feel trusted. I won't feel empowered. I will not go and do my level best. You might say, well, you know why? Because I'll say, yeah, I'll do my level best, and somebody else will steal the credit. Then even if you take care of me physically and mentally, it won't allow me to reach to the flow state.
I 100% love this one. 100%. There's a study. I read a study in a statistic somewhere that said 55%. So one in two managers, they feared that trust was one of the biggest threats in their organization. In other words, that they felt that that trust was one of the things that was missing. It was hard to trust. And civility. More employees around the world want more civility at work. Absolutely 100%. You nailed it. So important. I love the word around me. It's so powerful. Um, let's move on to the other A. I know we've got some takeaways, but we're going to hold the takeaways till we get the happy spells out. The next A. Oh no, I'm losing the connection again. So okay, so Dr. Masur, while you reconnect again, I'm so sorry. I don't know why we have this connection issue. I can't wait to get the other acronyms, the other words in the acronym spelled out. But till then, we go down through some of these takeaways that we've spoken about so far. The third one that I find really interesting here is, we spoke about the space around me, the social well-being element, and creating a space of civility. This is really a really key point. And why is that important is because we need to start creating workplaces that are more loving and accepting, where everyone feels included, they feel inclusive, they don't feel threatened or distant from anybody else. They feel like they're part of one family. So as an organization, we need to look at that as well. Um, Again, these are the small things that we can start to put more effort in our organizations in order for us to create the space around me, create the social element around us. So while Dr. Masood comes back, I throw it back to you. How does it look like in your organization? Do you feel that you fit in? Is it something that you can say that, yeah, my organization, I feel like I can fit in, I can say what I want, I feel trust is a big element. I would love to hear from you. Send us comments, and go ahead and email us as well if you feel. It would be fun to hear what are your experiences. So, Dr. Masood, while you were away, we spoke about the social around me, which is point number 3, creating a space of love and accepting, which is again part of being the social
Mhm.
around, civility and all that. So, the next letter in your acronym.
The next letter is P, and the first P is about performance and growth. Now, today, are we really looking into our colleagues from a performance and growth perspective? Are they excelling in their career? So here I would say it's about career well-being. Are they
Right.
able to find a value of their, because especially when you spend 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a company, you need to always feel that you're connected to the bigger cause. So if you are being taken care, if your KPIs are clear, if you know what you have to do at your workplace, if you have opportunity to grow and to learn something new, that is one important aspect of your well-being in the workplace. Again, because we are completing the circle by connecting the dots with each other. If we move on to the next P is purpose. And here what is my purpose? Why do I wake up in the morning? What is my role towards myself, towards my society? And here, the community well being aspect is very important. And one of the important areas that I like to focus on this P is sustainability. Because when you take care of your environment, when you take care of your society, when you work ethically, which are the pillars of sustainability, ethics, planet, and people, then you are able to use your workplace as a catalyst to build the society, as a catalyst to take care of your environment, as a catalyst to add value, and not just to go there to get your salary and come back, or just to say, yeah, I'm there from 9 to 5 and that's it. This takes me to the last letter, which is I. And this one, I love it. I like to call it the creative well being aspect of my workplace, innovation.
Wow, I
Am
love this
I
one.
innovating? I know people might say there are so many other pillars of well being, but I'm trying to focus that today we are talking about a workplace well being. And that's why I chose the letter I instead of Y, because with I, with you, innovation, and innovation will only come if you are creative, correct? Because innovation is the end result of creativity, and you will only be
Yes.
creative if you are trustworthy, if you are being empowered, if you are growing in your career, if you are being taken care of yourself physically and mentally. Once you feel safe and there is no one is hunting you, you will create. There will be less distractions. You will be able to come up with ideas that will take your workplace to the next level, that will also allow you to grow, because this will be your own product as an employee. Tomorrow, even if you leave that workplace, you can carry your own brand and take your new creativity anywhere you go.
Beautiful. I love all of these five. They were fantastic. And you got me on purpose. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And but innovation, that's a good one. The I. You're right. When are you creative? When you're authentic, when you're free from having to wear those masks and feel burdened, and when you're able to just be yourself, and you can then open up that bus of creativity. And when you're creative, innovation is a byproduct, right? You start to create, you start to innovate. So powerful. Imagine a culture that pushes well-being. You will always have amazing innovation around you. You can tend to see it. Haven't you seen amazing organizations where you walk in and you feel they have such innovation around them, because their people feel free. They feel like they can
Because you
be
cannot
themselves.
innovate with fear. We cannot
You
innovate
cannot.
with fear.
That's, that's right.
You're afraid of on your next pay scale, well, am I getting my salary or no next month? But when you create that space of serenity, that space of security, you'll allow your employee, and as we correctly said, give them the trust. I'll give you an example. I mean, interestingly enough, we talked today earlier that yes, companies are trying to excel, but still today, some companies are still thinking with the 17th century factory settings. Is my employee here from 9 to 5? Why are they late? Why do they leave early? Then we really have an issue if we are not able to trust. I know it goes two sides. The employee has also to show their manager that they're trustworthy, but it's a learning process. I mean, if I have an employee who is not very much disciplined, yes, we have to discipline them, but then it's a journey.
Yeah.
By using the stick approach always, I can definitely make everyone attend 9 to 5. But will I get the best out of them? I doubt it.
Well said. Well said. I mean, and the truth is, this is where your culture shows, right? So more important, when I say culture, I mean your corporate culture. This is where it's tested. Today in the pandemic, when people working hybrid, your culture started to show, and organizations' cultures was obvious, right? Because what is our culture? It's all of our values coming together in our organization. Not only the five words on the wall, but it's the way
Spot
we
on.
all are, and we bring that together,
Spot
and
on.
that's what the stakeholders experience, the culture of our organization, right? So I know that you and I, we love this topic. We can keep it going. I wanted to emphasize, as we speak about your pillars of well-being as well today, and we speak about some tips that we could do. There's many solutions, right, Dr. Mansoor? I mean, there's many ways people can go about their well-being, and that's the good news, right? It's not you have to do this is the way you must do it, but there's so many suggested practices. There's so many good practices out there, and you can start to take the ones that work for you. What do you think? Is that a good way to summarize that?
That's the beauty of well-being. Okay, you need to start somewhere, let's be honest. But the beauty of well-being, it's very flexible, and you can always kickstart with something that you like, so that you don't feel bored and you don't feel disconnected. But then once you pick up from one aspect, you can go to the other aspect. But again, here I would humbly request from your amazing platform, anyone who is managing people, please be as humble as possible. Try to always be empathic and try to embrace the various talents that you have. Because if I am doing my level best, but if my manager is not allowing me to grow, it will be very difficult and it will be very frustrating. So, to break is very easy, but to build is very difficult. So as much as you can, try to embrace people around you. You can start trying it. You might say, it's difficult. I'm a very moody person. You start at home. If you have your siblings or if you have your spouse, always try somewhere, because it's a matter of a habit that you get used to it. And believe me, once you allow space and allow people, you will see magic coming out of them. Even if at the beginning they were a little bit lazy in doing it. But if you're there, nudging them, coaching them, pushing them, you will get the best out of it.
Beautiful. Well said, Dr. Mansoor. Thank you for sharing. I would like to also say, in echoing what you just said, is that as organizations out there are trying to make the attempt, it's up to us to own our well-being. And as we start to transform our organizations ourselves, like you said, holding a space and creating a space of love, for ourselves and for others around us, a space of inclusivity, a space that's holistic. So it's not focused only on one specific type of well-being, and giving yourself the permission to try, because nothing is worse than not trying, right? So when you try, it's okay if you fail, at least you come back and you do it better next time. Dr. Mansoor, it's been an honor having you here, my friend. So excited about the work we're doing together. And from us both to everyone out there, sorry about the connection issue, guys. We'd love to hear your comments on your well-being at your workplace and what has been working for you. Share it with us today, so we can expand this conversation. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Dr. Mansoor.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Thank you, everyone who watched us in the space today and who's going to watch us later on, and wishing everyone a healthy and happy life.
Thank you. Bye-bye.